This is TWiT.
So let's talk a little bit about the recording revolution. Obviously, early on, you were blogging, and it kind of sounds like, from what I understand from your earlier history, you know, you had some job fluctuations. It was like, okay, well, I've got the time right now. I'm going to devote myself to writing these posts because people are always asking me what I think about this or that audio topic. And that's such an amazing moment of clarity that you had. I'm not entirely sure that you knew for certain what that was going to lead to, but what I respect about your approach on that is that you set your rules, your kind of requirements in order to satisfy that level that you've marked in the sand, that you've crossed in the sand, and you force yourself to stay with it, and slowly over time it grew. Where did that foresight come from? And were you surprised when, after all of that hard work, things started kind of accelerating the way that they did?
Oh yeah, I tell people I had no master plan, and I was not like, this is what I'm going to do and it's going to totally work. It was literally like you said. I lost my job. We moved down to Florida. I took this job. It was in 2009, so the recession was in full swing, and there was a new startup company. I was employee number 1, and after 5 months, they ran out of money. So they're like, I'm sorry, we can't do this. So I just bought a house and just had our first baby. And so it was like the worst time to lose your job.
Sure.
So I was trying to ramp up freelance work, and it was literally in between gigs. I was like, well, if I have nothing going on today or tomorrow or this week, I might as well do something to keep busy. And I thought it would be cool to start a blog only to get more clients. My wife thought it'd be cool to start a blog because I was always having friends and family and people over and answering the same questions about equipment and gear that my wife could tell you that you needed an Inbox and Pro Tools LE, and you could get it for $500 and get a large diaphragm condenser microphone. My wife could spit out the basic gear requirements. But she's like, you need to just write this down once and for all and put it up on the internet so you don't have to keep answering the same questions. And I was like, well, I could do that. But also, maybe if I consistently blogged about what I'm doing in the studio, it would get some traction online. Maybe some more people would find me remotely, hear my stuff, get to know me, and maybe want to hire me for one of their projects. So that was about as far as I thought it would be. I really thought I was just going to ramp up more freelance work. So it was a means to an end. And it worked. It did lead to some work, but it ended up flip-flopping where the blog, through random organic Google search, YouTube search, people started to find it. People started to connect with the content. I think they found it refreshing. I think at the time, I mean, I had nothing to lose or gain. So I was just trying to be as honest as possible about, look, you don't need to spend all this money. You could go to all the big forums right now, back in 2009, 2010, Gear Sluts and all these places, and everyone's telling you, if you want to make real recordings, you need to spend X number of dollars, and it's really expensive, and you need all this equipment. And they would make fun of people who had cheaper equipment. And all of that's just a bunch of, nonsense. It has nothing to do with the expense of the equipment. It has everything to do with your head space, and do you understand how to use it, and how good is the song, and how good is the arrangement, how good are you as a performer, and where did you put the microphone, not how much the microphone cost. So in my mind, I wanted to be the antithesis to that and be a voice of truth and reason in a weird space that I thought was frustrating and unhelpful. So I think that resonated with people. So I kept finding more people that kept commenting on posts and asking for more videos or more articles on stuff. And so they kept me going. But I quickly figured out there was a hunger for this information, but I had no idea how to monetize it. And that's where I started to think, like, look, I've got the time right now to write 2-3 posts a week, but this doesn't pay my bills. So at some point, if I'm getting more freelance work, I'm going to have to stop this blog unless I can find a way to monetize this content. And these days, there's a lot of helpful resources about that, how to monetize content online. 9 years ago, I didn't know anything about that. And there were some resources, but I wasn't aware of it. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of at a crossroads of, I got to figure out a way to monetize this if it's really going to take off and be worth my time.
How much time were you spending on these blog posts? And I mean, we'll talk about video in a second, because that's a whole other can of worms, depending on the complexity of the video, as we know. But, you know, when you're working on blog posts, that's pulling you away from, at least then, what you thought was your actual way of making money. How much time per week were you spending on 2 to 3 blog posts? Were you spending a lot of time on this, or trying to just like take those ideas and bang it out as fast as possible and move on?
Yeah, not a lot of time. Probably less time than I should have. But that was the funny thing, without having, since you didn't care, since it wasn't a big thing, and since I had no expectations and I didn't owe anybody anything, it was just like, hey, here's the one thing I did. I said, and maybe because I'm a weirdo, I like set like little, like you said, like laws and rules and parameters for myself, just to make the discipline of making sure I do the thing I want to do. So for me, the only thing I committed to was, I'm going to do 3 posts a week. Mm-hmm. And to me, that didn't seem like that a lot, because it's probably maybe an hour to write a blog post. You know, I would sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to write a post about that you can start a home studio for $500. And I'm going to explain that you don't need all this money. And I'm going to link to, here's what you need. You need an audio interface, you need a microphone, you need headphones. I'll list it. I'll tell them what it is, why they need it, link to the most affordable options. And that was maybe an hour of my time. Publish. I don't even know if I proofread. I probably still don't proofread enough. Like typos everywhere. But it wasn't, I didn't obsess over it, because it wasn't a big deal. It was like simple information in my head. Let me get it out into the public in a way that's easy to digest. So speak to someone who doesn't have a lot of technical knowledge, because most people don't. They're musicians first. They're not engineers first. They're musicians who are Googling how to record because they want to make their own music. And I'm the same way. I'm not a technical person. I learn what I need to know technically to accomplish what I want to accomplish creatively. But I'm a creative person, not a technical person. So to me, it was like an hour a post. So maybe 3 hours a week of actual writing. And then I would tweet out the posts and hope that people would find the tweets or reshare a tweet. And I would check my inbox if there were any emails, which there weren't many back then, of people who had questions. I would respond to some comments. So it might have been 5 hours a week, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a week. I mean, I had no job. So it was really an hour or 2 a day. I would check in and do some of this stuff in between gigs. And to me, it didn't seem like that much.
And of course, the beauty of that is that you started so early and with such velocity that over time, all you're doing is filling your resource, your online resource, with all of these reasons, all of these hooks that a search engine like Google or any other place that people are going to find your content might actually link to it or stumble upon it. And that's just a snowball that gets bigger and bigger. Another snowball that gets bigger and bigger is YouTube. As we know, YouTube right now, it's such a huge part of the online experience, especially for, you know, like I have young children. They don't care about traditional media. They want to watch YouTube more than anything else. So there's something there. You were producing content on YouTube at a pretty early point as well, and that's worked out for you. What point was it that you realized that YouTube might actually be a valuable platform for exposing your type of content to the world?
Yeah, I mean, right at the very beginning. I mean, this was back in 2009, late 2009 is when I started blogging, October 2009. And right around early 2010, I realized I need to make some videos for 2 reasons. One, to write about audio is one thing, but they need to hear it and see what I'm doing in Pro Tools, in the software. You know, if I want to say, here's how you EQ your vocals to sound good. Well, can I just show you what it looks like in the screen and then turn the knob on the screen and then you can hear the difference it's making? So in my mind, it's like, I need to start doing videos. I didn't know how to do that. So I'm like, how do you capture your screen? I'm like just Googling, how do you do this? And then I figured, you know what? I should upload these to YouTube, because at the time, it's still the truth today, but even at 2009, early 2010, YouTube was the 2nd largest search engine in the world. And I thought it was huge back then. Like you said, it's only bigger now. So my mind was like, look, if I write written articles, I'll be on Google. And if I make videos, I'll be on YouTube. That's about as smart as I am. Like, I'm not that like, but to me, that made a lot of sense. That's where I would go for stuff. You know, if my toilet was leaking, I would get on YouTube. Show me how to fix my toilet.
Right.
So I'm assuming people would do the same thing with music. So I thought, you know what, I should be in both places. So January 2010, I decided, okay, instead of 3 articles a week, it'll be 2 written articles, 1 YouTube video. That way I'm making 1 video on YouTube a week. And I'll just commit to that for as long as I can ride this train. And YouTube has been, it far surpassed, I think, Google traffic for me. And that's because in my niche, people learn better by watching it and hearing it, which makes sense because it's a visual and auditory, field that we're in. So people are looking on YouTube for my kind of stuff more often than on Google. And so just by the sheer number of videos I put out now, you can't not find me. And I think it's just because there's so many. But that was my logic back then, and it's worked out really well.